I'd like to say good evening to everyone. It's good to see all of you out this evening, and just to let everyone know, Tori told a lot of you, but I did meet with the DS yesterday and turned in all of our forms, everything that filled out, everything that we needed. So the cabinet meeting is next Tuesday, and that is when they will vote and close the church. Then I asked him what was the steps after that. He said, well, there's one man that's in charge of the selling of the buildings. What they will do is they'll contact whoever we want them to contact. And he said that he would just give you my name and number. And I said, that's fine. That's fine with me. He wanted me to tell him, he wanted to know what price we wanted to put on the building. And I said, well, we already said that we felt comfortable at $45. He said, well, then that's what he's going to put on the papers as a recommendation for the sale of the building. So he said, once all that goes through, he said it'll probably be next week is also their annual conference. It will go through to the weekend. So he said it'll probably be the following week that there's sometime that it depends on how busy the guy is, but he will contact me sometime in the next few weeks for us just to state what, kind of talk about the price of it a little bit. He said then what will happen, the next steps is once we agree upon whatever it is, then they'll take it to a trustees meeting that they have. The trustees have to vote on it. He said usually that's just goes right on through them. That's fine. He said that's pretty easy. He'll have to sign off on it as a DS agreeing to the sale of it. And he said all that usually goes pretty smoothly. It's just not very quick. He said it just takes time to do that. Their meeting, there's one in June, end of June. He doesn't feel that we'll probably have everything ready by then. So he said that'll probably put you up in July before we can even have the meeting for them to sign the papers. And once all that's signed and done, it goes to the attorney, and ever how long the attorney takes, it just takes. And I said, well, we would like to have it done as quickly as possible, of course. I said, what we'd love to have is have it done by August, because I know we have Vacation Bible School usually in August, and we usually have our homecoming in August. And he said he said he wouldn't count on it being done by then. So that's just where we're at. So, but he said he does believe and he feels that there's not an issue with us buying it, and he thinks the price will probably be pretty reasonable for us. It's just going to take time to get there. I took him to check and everything to close out the accounts. He said that's fine. Everything was fine on that. He said that really didn't make no difference to him one way or the other. So he said that as far as he's concerned that, of course, we have to be out of it for that amount of time. I have contacted this place over here next door. I haven't heard back from them. So my guess is, since I haven't heard anything back, the answer was no. They just afraid to tell me because they want to use our parking lot this weekend. I have also asked the Nazarene Church. He said he didn't figure it'd be an issue with us for us using their building and stuff, because I asked him about their fellowship hall. Of us using it so we can just have our services. He said they have no heating and cooling in there right now. It's out. He said he's pretty sure there's no issue with us wanting to use it, but it's just going to be hot in there in the summertime. So, but he did say he would have to talk that over because it was after church Sunday when I talked to Pastor Thomas. But he don't think there'll be an issue. He did say that he's going to make a suggestion to let us use their building, and we could just have a service at an off time that they're not having theirs. If we want to start at 12:30 or 1 o'clock on Sunday and have a service or whatever, just use their building. And that may be fine. That may be what we do. I don't know if we're going to try to do a Sunday school and then a church. We can do both and just have one service the days and not have any in the evenings for now. Or we may have some at somebody's house in the evenings, maybe on Wednesday evenings even, or maybe use theirs on a Wednesday night. I don't know what that's going to be yet. Somebody in Beverly may help me out with this. Somebody made a suggestion, what would get hold of the fire department, see about using theirs maybe find out who I can call and talk to about that and let me know, and maybe we'll get a hold of somebody and ask them.
Well, the chief, forest chief down is Michael Ward.
Well, that's what I said. We'll just now have to get a number and stuff for them, and then we'll try to get a hold of them. Doesn't hurt to ask. So if anybody has any place else that we could ask, we can check on those as well. But I've asked the school about Lismore School, and they said the gym is full of stuff from H.E. White School, and they don't. And I'd have to. I talked to one of the board members, and that's what they told me. And they're getting ready to turn that back over to the family, so they're trying to get it cleaned out to turn it over. So that sounds like I know on that one too. So that's where I'm at so far. He said he really feels confident, not a problem, no issues with us buying the building and getting it back. It's just going to take time between when they have meetings once a month and then getting things done. So that's where we're at. Matthew chapter 8. Now we'll get back into something for Matthew chapter 8. The other thing I'm going to have, maybe the first meeting we have, or maybe print some off, is go ahead and have people start signing letters to join our new church. Since this one's closed, all of our stuff is turned in. I've even filled out my paperwork to withdraw myself from clergy, from the conference. What I need to do is maybe just print some of that back sheet of our bylaws that we have. There's a sheet on the back of that. And you don't have it, or you may have thrown it away. But I will try to get some of those printed up and copied, and we'll just have people start signing those that wants to join our church. We have a membership secretary that it'll go to, and then we'll start from there. All right, Matthew chapter 8. We had just finished going through the Sermon on the Mountain. So we have here several stories that of Jesus' healing. There's several of them right in a row. There's some of the others. Mark and Luke has some of the same stories in it. Some of them in John. Most of them is a little more detailed than they are in Matthew. But you also got to remember the different audiences. Matthew was writing to fellow Jews. So in writing to them, they understand the Mosaic laws really well, the Abraham laws very well. The men would memorize those, the first 4 books of the Bible, the Torah. In one of the commentaries that I read, I said that probably why there are so many of them right in a row, because if you go back and read some of the Abraham stories and some of the miracles and stuff that Moses did, they were trying to recreate maybe or tell some of the same type of miracles that Jesus performed. And the reason why Abraham and Moses was the 2 most important people that's in the Hebrew lineage. That was who they banked on. That's who they talked about having Abraham to their lineage. And so Matthew, being a writer, is trying to show the same type of importance for Jesus as those 2. So maybe that's why we'll see some of these happening really quick, not the detail that we have in some of the other Gospels. And it says that when he was come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. Now, the thing is also we need to remember at this time that they were under the Roman rule. The Romans did not like to see large gatherings. They did not want to see things like this happening because they would take it as maybe someone that's trying to overthrow them, or somebody may get the crowd going against them and cause trouble if they have to go in and disperse them. So a lot of times when you read these, you understand that the times that they were living in, that they didn't want to see this. And a lot of times you also can think of it, that's one of the reasons why the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the scribes, all of those people that was against Jesus, also was against the crowds, because they didn't want them following Jesus, because it may upset their power that they have, and it may be taken back by Rome. So we see a great multitude as Jesus has been teaching and had the authority and showed all the authority that he had. And a great multitude of people was following after him. When you hear teaching like that, someone that taught with authority, they wanted more. And I can understand that. They wanted more. They wanted to hear more of what he had to say. It says, and behold, there came a leper and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou mayst make me clean. So here's a miracle that takes place. Jesus, of course, you got to understand leprosy. There was two types of leprosy that they had generally. There was more than different types, but they throw them into two categories. There was some that would heal themselves over time, and there was some that would cause death. And a lot of times when people had the leprosy, they didn't know what type they had, so it was common and for them to push them away from everyone else because it was spread by human contact. So they didn't want people to be around them. So when this leper would come up, that's the reason why in the Bible, a lot of times we hear them holler, unclean, unclean, as they would come around people so they'd know to step away because they were considered unclean to be touched. So we see someone that comes to Jesus who must have heard of his teaching or maybe even heard of some of the healing that he had already done. The first miracle that he did was at the wedding of Canaan, when he turned the water into wine. Now, it wasn't a healing, but if somebody was there and saw that may have spread the word, they may have heard of it. And Lord here in this passage can also be translated from the original text as Sir. But Lord, if thou wilt, thou may make me clean. And Jesus put forth his hand and touched him. Now that was very, very a no-no, to touch somebody that had leprosy. Because that would also make you unclean. For usually 7 to 10 days, you had to be away from people and had to stay in case you got ceremonially unclean. And then once those days it was done, they had the purification day, like when you would have to go wash and clean and go before, and we'll get it. Well, I don't want to jump ahead of myself here. But Jesus put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will be thy clean. And immediately his leprosy was what? Cleansed. Yes.
I was reading that and I said, boy, I said, ain't that like Jesus? You asked me something, sure. That's it. I will do that.
It's cleansed. He was made whole.
Like leprosy was kind of result of sin, some type of sin.
Most people in this time viewed anything that bad happened to you as something that you brought on yourself. They considered something in your life. Go back and look at Job. Job didn't do anything, but all this stuff happened. But what did his wife and his two friends did? Came and surely, Job, you did something. Just admit it, right? We even have his disciples ask him one time about a man that was blind and ask him who sinned. Did this man sin or his parents sin? Neither, he said. It's for the glory of God. So, see, the things that happened in your life, they blamed it on the person that had it because either you did something wrong or there was sin in your life. Well, we know that's not how it happened, but I still believe that today that some things that happens to people is caused by sin and God turning their back on them after a while. And Jesus said unto him, See thou tell no man, but go thy way. Show thyself to the priest in the offering of the gift of Moses' commandment for a testimony unto them. See here, when you was cleansed from leprosy, even as Jesus did here, or it healed on itself, you would have to go to the priest, and there was a cleansing process they did that you had to go through. That was according to, and if that is in Leviticus chapter 2. If you want to go back and read it, I read it some last night, and it talked about the things you had to do before the altar and had to be inspected, and all these things had to be done to you to show that your leprosy was gone, and then you was allowed to return back to your formal life then. I always found it strange, though, when Jesus tells them not to tell anybody. Folks, shouldn't that be hard not to tell somebody if Jesus healed you? Today, if somebody gets healed by Jesus, you want to tell somebody that Jesus healed you, or with Jesus' help, you made it through something. But he tells them that his time is not at hand yet. And if you study through the Gospels, you'll see that so often that he tells them that his time is not at hand. Because if his fame got spread too quickly, he may be arrested and be put to death. But it wasn't his time yet to do so. But when he told Lazarus come forth, there was no turning back then, was there? That's the first miracle. Now here we go with another one. And when Jesus had entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion beseeching him, and saying, Lord, my servant lieth at home sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. Now palsy, of course, is something that he would have been sick or paralyzed from. Maybe there was something wrong with the legs, or the hips or something that he could not walk. A servant here, and this would have been servant, but the word translated also means child. A child in their household that was sick. But a centurion was someone that was pretty high up in the Roman army. And Jesus said unto him, I will come and heal him. Now here's the thing that gets me, and some of the things to be thinking about in this. Here we have a centurion. This is a Roman soldier. Now most of these Roman soldiers was people from the area. They wouldn't have been Jewish people, but people from the area. How had he heard or had faith in believing that Jesus could heal him? He must have been around some of the teaching. He may have been around some of the Jewish people and seen some of the things happen. He would have heard some of the things. But somewhere in his life, he heard about Jesus and believed. Maybe he was down to just grasping at straws and he just had no hope. But for some reason, he went to Jesus and trusted that he would heal him, because he said the centurion answered him when he said he would go heal him. And he said, Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come into my roof, under my roof. But speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. Boy, that's a lot of faith, isn't it? Now, see, in that part of the time in Jerusalem, or a lot of these cities that they was in, the Romans had a certain section that was set aside for them to live, and they were separated from the Jewish and the rest of the community. They didn't want those Jewish people in their community. So he's saying, Lord, I'm not worthy for you to come in. And I wondered if part of that is, if you come into our community, you probably wouldn't be welcomed. Or if you come into my house, it may not look good for me. But he had faith and said, Lord, if you'd only say it, he will be healed. For I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this man, go, and he goeth. And to another one, come, and he cometh. And to my servant, do this, and he doeth it. Someone of pretty high authority, isn't it? To have soldiers under him that would answer to him and do what he had. Servants under him that he would have them to do things and they would do it. Sound like somebody he didn't want to make mad.
I think he had like 100 soldiers.
Usually it's about 100 soldiers. I read one of them said that he would be about the rank today of a sergeant major. I don't know military stuff. So I don't know. When Jesus heard it, he marveled and said to them that followed him, verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. This one that is a Gentile, the ones the Jewish people called what? Dogs. They had no respect for him, had more faith than what he's seen so far in Israel of his fellow Jews. Boy, isn't that something? And I say unto you, that many shall come from the east and from the west, and shall sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Now we can go back to see Psalms 107. And he talks about a gathering of the Jewish people from the north, the south, the east, and from the west. Of course, they always start their direction with east and west. I don't know why most time we say north and south, east and west. But he's talking about the gathering of the people from all directions. And he's really not even referring to the Jewish people. He's referring to those followers of the Messiah to come in Psalms 107. So when you see this, he's talking about, and they would have recognized, those Jewish people that was listening to him would have recognized that, and what he meant by saying that, of the gathering of those followers, those Gentile followers. And this centurion being one of them.
It's like what Cornelius says.
Yep.
They're paying his giving alms, praying. He didn't know the Lord.
Yeah. But he said the children of the kingdom. Now that he's talking here, when these all gather in, there's going to be some that are the fellow Jews. The children of the kingdom shall be cast out into utter darkness. Why? Because they didn't believe in the Messiah. And Jesus said unto the centurion, go thy way, and as thou hast believed, so it be done unto thee. And his servant was healed in that selfsame hour. Can you imagine that centurion when he left there? If he had the faith to come to Jesus and believing that Jesus could heal his servant, when he said he's healed, he would have had the faith to believe that it would have been done. How exciting he must have been when he left there. When he left there, how exciting it would have been to go through the streets on his way home. How excited he must have been.
He may have forgotten about that earthly road.
He may have been forgot about it for a while, yes. And how excited he'd been when he got home and found out that it happened. Oh my goodness. Make him probably want to throw all them idols out and start following after Jesus then, wouldn't he? And when Jesus had come into Peter's house, here we go with another one of his miracles. He saw his mother-in-law lay and sick of fever. And he touched her hand, and the fever left her. And she arose and ministered unto them. when the eve had come, they brought unto him many that were possessed of devils, and he cast out the spirits with his words, and healed all that were sick. Folks, isn't that something? I know we've had that in Mark chapter 1, that already, and I've already preached on that a few Sundays ago. But coming into Simon's house and healing of his mother-in-law, and I listened to a message, and I don't know if I've told you all this, it's been a week or so back, when they preached about Jesus' disciples. We always think of the disciples as probably being older people because they were fishermen and whatever. And they said the average age was probably about 15 to 17 years old of his disciples. And the text that they used, if you remember, there was a time when they had to pay the tax at the temple. And Jesus told Peter to go down to the river or to the water's edge and catch the fish and take the gold coin out of the fish's mouth to pay their taxes. Now, you only paid taxes if you was 18 and up. So they're saying that because of that, Jesus and Peter was the only one that was married. He had to, so he was probably 18 and up, and the others were all under that age. The reason why they didn't have to pay taxes. I did not know that until I heard that message the other night. That they brought many in that were sick and afflicted, and he healed them, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of Isaiah the prophet, saying, himself took on infirmities and bare our sicknesses. Isaiah prophesied this hundreds of years before Jesus came, that he would bear their sicknesses and their infirmities. Then we go into another miracle here, a testing of the disciples here, when Jesus was great multitude about him, he gave commandments to depart into another side. That's about where we was at last Sunday in Mark chapter 1 when he said go into another city, and a certain scribe came and said unto him, Master, I will follow thee wherever thou goest. So here we have a scribe, someone who recognized Jesus, maybe from reading and studying of the Messiah to come, and maybe he did, or he thought of him as a great teacher because of the way he was teaching with wisdom, something he had never heard of, with the authority that he had never heard before. But he came to him and he said, Master, or this is teacher, translate, teacher, I will go with thee wherever thou goest. And Jesus saith unto him, the foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. So we see here this taking place to let them know to count the cost of doing so. He's telling this young man who Jesus, I believe, can see the heart and tell that he may have been sincere about wanting to learn, but may not have been sincere about truly following him wherever he goes. Because he may, a lot of the teachers they had at that time would find some place and they would settle, and the students would come to them. Well, we know Jesus didn't stay seated or stayed still in one place very long. So traveling after him, that would have been a pretty big chore to do. So he's warning this young man here ahead of time. A scribe would have been a young man, to be prepared, because wherever we go, it count the cost before we go. And another of his disciples said unto him, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father. But Jesus said unto him, Follow me, and let the dead bury the dead. Now, one of the commentaries that I read stated that this was a pretty common expression used in the time, meaning, let me stay with my father. He's sick and close to death. Not that he was already dead, because they would have done the burial in the same day that he would have died. That was the Jewish tradition. So here he's probably saying that my father is sick, let me stay with him until he dies. But he's saying, follow me now. And let the dead bury the dead.
What that actually mean?
If you're going to follow him, you need to go ahead and follow him. And again, he's talking about counting the cost of what it means to follow him. You know, he later told them in more detail than some of them that those that leave their family, their mother, their father, and they even talk about hating their mother and their father. But what he means is to leaving them behind and never seeing them again. You have to count the cost of what it is to follow him. So here's someone who may have good intentions and wanted to say, I'll follow you and go with you wherever I go, but I need to stick around and take care of my aging father. When he goes, I will follow. He said, you know, he probably knew the heart that he really didn't mean it. But he said, follow me and let the dead bury their dead. Once they're dead and gone, they don't do you no good. And their tradition is when someone died, they buried them within 24 hours, usually the same day. Of course, their day started at nightfall.
You can do that now.
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
You do not have to have a person involved.
No.
Now, here's another miracle that happened, this time with his disciples about it. And he said, and when he had entered into a ship, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with the waves, but he was asleep. And his disciples come to him, Lord, and awoke him, and saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And he saith unto them, Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? When he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the men marveled, saying, What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? I was wondering when that's exactly what I was about to say, is when we're in that boat being tossed about and to and fro and see his disciples. I don't understand, I don't know how far along in his ministry this was and his disciples, how much they knew of him yet. But why would they be afraid of perishing if they had Jesus with them and he was calm enough that he was asleep? He wasn't concerned, was he? Why would they be concerned? And then I thought about turning that around on us. When we have storms in our lives and we're afraid of things that's going to be happening and what may the outcome be, why are we afraid? Because we have the Lord in our heart. He wants the best for us. We're going to come through all right. Right? And when he had come to the other side into the country of Genesis, I don't even know how to pronounce that. There met him two possessed with the devils. Now, in the other two, there's two other gospels that has this story. That they just have one, but this one has two coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. They were possessed with devils, and people was afraid of them. And it said that they broke their chains and other ones, and the feathers that they had them bind it down with, and people was afraid of them. But I like this verse. It says, And behold, they cried out, saying, what have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us? What is this? Before the time. Did you see that? Before the time. The devils knew who he was. They recognized Jesus. They knew who he was. He was the Son of God. They even said so. But they know that their time is limited. They know what's going to happen. And here they even ask him, Jesus, are you here to torment us before the time that we're supposed to? In my paraphrasing words. I didn't see that until I was studying this the other night. Come hither to torment us before the time. And there was a great way off from them a herd of many swine feeding. Now the question I had is, here is a village that is supposed to be a Jewish village that has pigs in it, and pigs is something they're not supposed to have. Was that why maybe they were out at the tombs, out away from the village and the town, because they're not supposed to have them? So the devils besought him, saying, if thou cast me out, suffer us to go away into the herd of swine. And when he said unto them, go. I like that. And when they had come out, they went into the herd of swine. And behold, the whole herd of the swine ran violently down the steep place into the sea and perished in the waters. And they that kept them fled and went their way into the city and told everything and what was befallen to the possessed of the devils. Well, they were calm now. They were going. I mean, they could understand them, the ones that was possessed. And behold, the whole city come out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they besought him that he would depart out of their coast.
They was just looking off pigs across. They wasn't looking at the miracle.
True, they were looking at the financial loss they had just suffered instead of looking at the miracle of the two men here in this one that was, as in one of the other Gospels says, was clothed and in the right mind and sitting at the feet of Jesus. They wasn't paying attention to the miracles and the things that maybe conform. They were worried about the financial loss that had just happened. So we'll stop right there. There's so many more healings and so many miracles that happens here real quick. And again, this is a Jewish audience that Matthew is writing to. And one of the commentaries that I read said that he was doing this probably to draw a parallel between him and Moses in the law. So. All right, does anyone have anything else? All the time. But folks, as soon as I find out what we're going to do, where we're going to be meeting, any more detail, I will let y'all know just as soon as I know something. Looking forward to the picnic Sunday. We watched the weather right before we come down here. I guess it's supposed to rain starting, I guess, tomorrow. Saturday and Sunday morning, but they said that it would be ending before noon. There's still a few days off, you know. The weathermen still lied to us. And a high of about 80 degrees. So that's a little cooler than today, and hopefully. But you know what normally happens when the sun comes up? Then the humidity goes up. All right.